The sound hit like a gunshot, a sharp crack of a body slamming against polished tile. Silence swallowed Horizon International's Terminal 4. Phones froze mid-scroll, shoes halted mid-step. At the center of the security line, a Marine in crisp service greens lay twisted on the floor, chest rising in shallow, broken gasps. A scream tore the air. A child cried. Dozens of phones rose like drawn weapons, not to help, but to record. "Stay back. Nobody move," barked Alan Brooks, the security supervisor. His navy jacket puffed like armor as he thrust an arm across the crowd. "This is a security incident. Everyone freeze where you are," but one man was already moving. Arthur Hale, 83 years old. White hair, stubborn against time. A stooped frame beneath a tweed jacket too heavy for Los Angeles heat. To most, just another old traveler waiting to see his granddaughter. Yet inside, something ancient stirred. A soundless chord, a thrum that had slept for decades. Trouble. His faded eyes locked on the Marine, the bluish lips, the sheen of sweat, the fluttering breath, the unnatural angle of his leg. Hale stepped forward. "Hey, old man," Brooks snapped, voice sharp with arrogance. "Where do you think you're going?" Hale didn't slow. Brooks bristled, stepping into his path. His voice rose, desperate for control. "I said stop. This is my checkpoint. My authority here is absolute." "Touch him and I'll have you cuffed and dragged out," the crowd murmured, eyes pinned to the stooped figure who ignored rules and threats alike. Finally, Hale raised his head, his voice low, gravelly cut sharper than any badge. "He needs help." Brooks scoffed. "What are you? Some kind of doctor? Every bystander thinks they're a hero. Step back before you kill him, sis." Hale slowly lifted his hands, scarred, gnarled, steady as stone. These hands have set bones in rice paddies. These hands stitched arteries in helicopter bellies. They know what they're doing. "Now will you let me help this boy? Or stand there and watch him die?" The words cleaved the sterile air. Silence followed, for the first time. Brooks hesitated. His eyes flickered with doubt. On the floor, the Marine groaned, whispering weakly, "Reyes." "My name's Reyes." The crowd leaned in. Phones lowered, and in that suspended moment, authority collided with desperation, and the world held its breath to see if an old man would be allowed to save a dying soldier. The Marine's chest rose once, then faltered like an engine choking on its last breath. Arthur Hale dropped to one knee. His fingers pressed to the young man's neck pulse, rapid, thready, fading. Sweat glazed the Marine's pale skin, lips turning blue. The boy was slipping away. "He needs help," Hale said again, his voice a quiet thunder no one could ignore. Alan Brooks lunged forward, fury in his eyes. "Get away from him. You're interfering with a federal investigation. I'll have you cuffed before the cops even arrive." But Hale didn't flinch. His movements were crisp, practiced. He tilted the Marine's head back, clearing the airway. His voice dropped, steady and calm, like a father to a son. "Stay with me, Corporal Reyes. You're not alone." The crowd leaned in, drawn tight by gravity. Fear gave way to something heavier, the realization they were witnessing not chaos, but history. Phones lowered. Silence pressed. Brooks, humiliated by Hale's defiance, snapped at his radio. "Dispatch. I have a non-compliant subject, elderly male. Combative backup now." His voice cracked, authority fraying with every word. Hale reached for the olive-drab medic satchel by his side. Brass clasps clicked open, under fluorescent glare. Steel instruments gleamed older than most of the men watching. Out came a combat tourniquet, gauze, a stethoscope, a battered blood pressure cuff. The sight froze Brooks in place. These weren't the props of a pretender. They were tools of war, tools of life and death. Hale's hands moved with surgical precision as he worked. Ghosts rose around him, the thick humidity of jungle nights, the thunder of M60s, the scream of wounded men in the dark. For a heartbeat, the terminal dissolved into hue. 1968. Then it was gone. Only Reyes remained. A voice cut through the silence, female, commanding, "Let him work." The crowd turned. Colonel Sarah Whitaker, retired Air Force, posture erect, eyes sharp. "I know what I'm seeing," she said. "That man isn't guessing. He's a medic." Brooks spun on her. "Ma'am, this is my checkpoint." Her reply sliced him clean. "Your checkpoint has a Marine dying on the floor, and the only man saving him is the one you're trying to arrest." Brooks faltered. Authority slipped from his hands. Hale looked up once, meeting Whitaker's gaze. No words needed, she saw it all, skill carved in blood, the refusal to let another soldier die. Then Reyes convulsed, clutching his abdomen. His whisper tore the silence. "Hurts. Inside." Hale's eyes hardened. This wasn't just an airway. The boy was bleeding out, and without intervention he was already halfway gone. At the far end of the concourse, Colonel Sarah Whitaker's report was already moving through invisible channels. Her call reached the desk of a young duty officer at Westfield Air Base, just 12 miles from Horizon International. He typed, "Fast. Marine collapsed. Civilian medic obstructed. Civilian name Arthur Hale." He pressed enter instead of a civilian record. The screen erupted in red. Warnings cascaded across the monitor. Code 1 Sentinel flag. The captain's mouth went dry. His chair clattered as he shot to his feet. "Major, you need to see this. Now." Major Daniel Thompson ambled over with a half-eaten bagel. "What is it this time?" "Captain Printer Jam, sir. Look." Thompson leaned closer. His eyes caught the name. His face drained. The bagel slipped from his hand. Forgotten on the floor. "Oh my God. Get the base commander." "No, skip the chain. Call General Grant's aide. Tell them it's a Sentinel event." The room froze. No one questioned it. Sentinel wasn't debated. It wasn't delayed. Protocol Sentinel bypassed every layer of command. No signatures. No approvals. Once the flag lit, scramble orders triggered instantly. Units were already moving before the officer could draw his next breath. Back inside Terminal 4, Arthur Hale had no idea his name had detonated through military channels. His entire world was Corporal Reyes, the boy's shallow breaths. The pulse hammering too fast beneath fragile skin. The hand pressed tight against a stomach already slick with unseen blood. "Easy, son," Hale murmured, steady as stone. "Stay with me. You're not going anywhere." For a moment, the sterile terminal vanished. Hale was 21 again, crouched in a sandbag bunker outside Hue. The air was hot, thick with iron and mud. Mortars screamed, M60s roared. A boy no older than Reyes bled out in front of him, chest torn apart, his younger hands strong. Unyielding pulled a chest seal from the same olive-drab bag, slapping it against the wound while tracer fire stitched the night sky. Bullets rattled overhead. Men screamed. He stitched. He sealed. He endured. The flash passed. Only Reyes remained, fighting to stay alive, from across the concourse. Whitaker watched with narrowed eyes. She'd seen medics like him before Kandahar, Baghdad, not doctors, not guessers, warriors who carried ghosts in their fingertips. This wasn't luck. It was bone-deep experience. Meanwhile, Alan Brooks clung to his radio, desperate to reclaim control. Dispatch. "I have him restrained in my sight. Elderly male. Combative. Backup required." His voice rang hollow. Authority was unraveling in his hands, and everyone knew it. And then the sound came. At first, faint, a single siren somewhere beyond the glass, then another, and another. until it built into a wall of noise, a chorus shaking the terminal windows. Heads turned. The crowd surged toward the glass. On the tarmac, black SUVs and up-armored Humvees thundered into the restricted zone, engines snarling like predators. Doors flew open before the wheels even stopped. Military police poured out, rifles slung, eyes sharp. They weren't slowing. They weren't asking, because Sentinel didn't wait. And Arthur Hale, his hands pressed to a dying Marine, never looked up. He didn't need to. The storm had arrived. The sirens still thundered outside when the convoy hit the curb. Black SUVs and armored Humvees screeched to a halt where no civilian vehicle dared stop. Engines roared. Doors slammed before the wheels even stilled. Military police poured out in disciplined waves. Rifles slung, eyes sharp. This wasn't airport security anymore. This was a military operation because Sentinel didn't wait. Inside Horizon International, the crowd gasped. Phones wavered between raised and lowered, torn between spectacle and awe. The terminal seemed to tilt toward the glass, caught in a mix of fear and reverence. And then he appeared, a tall figure in a decorated army service uniform, stride cracking against the tile like gunfire. His face was thunder contained by discipline. Some 2 silver stars glinted on his shoulders. Major General Elias Grant had arrived. The crowd parted without a word. Even TSA officers froze, their radios still buzzing about an elderly aggressor. Their jaws slackened as the general and his retinue advanced with explosive precision. Grant's eyes ignored them all, his focus locked on the stooped figure kneeling in sterile light, hands pressed to a dying Marine. Arthur Hale never looked up. His world was Reyes's pulse, Reyes's breath, Reyes's survival. Grant strode to him, boots snapping on polished floor. When he stopped, the air itself stilled. His right hand cut upward in a salute so sharp it carved silence into stone. "Mr. Hale," Grant's voice boomed. "It is an honor." "Sir." The crowd erupted in whispers. Phones sank like guilty hands. Hale blinked, surfacing from his focus. His reply was soft, gravel-worn, but steady. "General, this Marine needs a surgeon. Now." Behind them, Alan Brooks still clutched plastic cuffs, his face drained in a single salute. His authority was erased. Grant didn't spare him a glance. One snap of his fingers, and combat medics appeared at Hale's side, gear unfolding in seconds, IV line dripping, trauma kit open, stretcher braced. Their movements flowed like extensions of Hale's own will. But Grant wasn't finished. His voice rose, clear and cold, carrying to every corner of the hall. "Colonel," for the record context. He gestured to Hale. "This man is former Army Corporal Arthur Hale. In February 1968, during Operation Iron Veil, his platoon was overrun outside Hugh. Wounded early, he spent 18 hours under continuous fire, moving from man to man. When the aid station fell, he picked up a fallen soldier's M16 and defended it alone while still treating the wounded. By the time reinforcements arrived, 32 men were alive who otherwise would have been dead. For those actions, he was awarded the Presidential Valor Medal. The words fell like ordnance. Gasps rippled. The frail traveler in a tweed jacket vanished. In his place stood a legend. Colonel Sarah Whitaker smiled faintly. She had known it the moment she saw his hands. The cuffs slipped from Brooks's numb fingers. His lips moved, but no sound came. Grant's gaze landed on him at last. Weight crushing. You would have arrested this man. You would have cuffed a legend while he saved a Marine's life. A senior TSA official stumbled forward. Panic in his face, Grant's fury pivoted like a weapon. "I want his name. I want a report on my desk by 0800. And I want to know what training lets ego outweigh human life. This is a stain on every uniform in this building. Silence. Only the medics working. Reyes stabilized for transport. Grant's tone softened as he turned back. Mr. Hale. Corporal Reyes will make it because of you. Hale rose slowly, knees stiff. His hand rested on Brooks' shoulder, not with triumph, but with weary truth. Every uniform is meant to serve. Remember that. The stretcher lifted. The crowd parted in reverence. Yet outside, convoy engines still rumbled. Arthur Hale knew the storm wasn't over. It had only just begun. The aftermath came like the silence after a storm, within hours. The story was everywhere. But the headlines didn't read airport security disruption. They carried another name, Arthur Hale. The TSA issued a formal apology. Supervisor Alan Brooks was quietly reassigned, yet the ripples went further. The Department of Defense announced a new training mandate on emergency response and empathy, unofficial at first. Whispered among agents, then written into policy. They called it the Hale Directive. For Hale. The noise faded quickly. He never wanted recognition. A few days later, he was back in his small town, slipping into a quiet coffee shop. He ordered black coffee. No sugar. The newspaper in his hand still carried his face, though folded down, as if he wanted to hide from it. The bell over the door jingled. A figure stepped in, shoulders slumped, civilian clothes. Alan Brooks. His eyes found Hale. Froze, and for a long moment he stood, weighed down by shame. Then, almost broken, he walked forward. Sir, Mr. Hale, I am sorry. There's no excuse. Hale looked up, unreadable. The silence stretched. Then he gestured to the empty chair. Sit down. The coffee's good here. Tell me how you're doing. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't condemnation. It was something deeper, a chance. A week later, Hale's doorbell rang. On his porch stood Corporal Jacob Reyes, pale, leaning on a cane, but alive. His parents flanked him, eyes bright with gratitude. Reyes gripped Hale's hand, voice thick with emotion. You saved my life, and not just mine. The handshake said more than words. The embrace said the rest. When the door closed, Hale returned to his chair by the window. His eyes drifted to the olive-drab medic bag resting on the table. His fingers traced the worn canvas handle, and memory returned. A sunlit airfield, 1968. A young soldier, battered and bandaged, pressing that same bag into his hands before boarding a transport. You keep it, Doc. You saved us all. The bag had never just been canvas and clasps. It was a vessel of gratitude, sacrifice, duty. And half a century later, it had carried one more life. Arthur Hale leaned back, closed his eyes, and let the weight of it settle. He hadn't wanted the spotlight. But fate had reminded everyone of a truth too often forgotten. The greatest heroes aren't the loudest. They are the quiet ones, the unseen guardians, ordinary until the moment comes when they rise and change everything.